All right, happy Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, whenever you're listening. But
it's got to be happy, man. I feel weird.
Well, man, so happy whatever day you're listening to this. Of course, we put it out on a Tuesday, but I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we are discussing Skinwalkers. But before we dive into that, we are the Podcasting Dead. If you are into podcasts in general, consider subscribing. We're available on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, soon iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify. All over the place. Plenty of ways to listen. And we talk about everything from The Walking Dead to the Fear the Walking Dead to current events to conspiracies. All kinds of different podcasts. A little something for everyone. Down to an upcoming Thirsty Thursday podcast we're working on, in which case we'll get a good buzz and have a few chats.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
But in the meantime, let's talk about Skinwalkers. After the podcast, we'll give you social media info and talk about our Patreon. But right now, you clicked on this because you want to hear about Skinwalkers. So we used to do every Tuesday was a current events Tuesday, but really it just was hard to find anything that interesting to podcast about. It didn't seem to really get much attention, so we're trying to take it in another direction because, to be honest, we didn't really look forward to that one as much anyway. So now we're going to see how this works. If the listeners like this enough, we'll continue every Tuesday. We will talk about a different paranormal anomaly, just kind of how JP is the guy that loves and knows a lot about conspiracy theories, whether he believes them or not. I'm that way with paranormal. I don't know what I believe in terms of the paranormal, but it's always fascinated me. So.
And for our regular listeners, this is sort of unrelated to the paranormal series we've been hyping, like the one we're going to be releasing weekly.
Yeah, that's paranormal accounts from people, whereas this is, we're going to talk about today we'll talk about Skinwalkers. Maybe next week we could do like Wendigos or jinns or something like that, if people are into that type of thing. Course. But so let's talk about Skinwalkers, because I just stumbled upon these creatures on the internet, of course, not in person, thank God, within the last few weeks, from channels like Lazy Masquerade and Darkness Prevails and other channels where they narrate stories told on Reddit. So keep in mind that a lot of the stuff I'm going to be repeating are things that I've heard on these narrations or I've read on Reddit or read on the internet. So sorry, I can't really cite all my sources, but I'm not going to be quoting from any websites or sources directly. I'm just kind of repeating what I know about these things because I don't really know that I believe these things are real, but to some people they are very real. So Skinwalkers, let's start off with just what you would encounter. They're shape-shifting creatures that try to lure you away. That's the gist of what these things are.
What do they want to lure me into?
That's up for debate, but apparently this dives into witchcraft. The Skinwalker is derived from a Navajo word, and this seems to be a very big part of Navajo culture. In fact, it's said that if you go to like Navajo reservations and you try to talk about it, they won't even discuss it with you because they're scared of what will happen. Some of them, they believe that Skinwalkers walk amongst regular people and use the cover of night to transform. But so according to legend, what a Skinwalker is it was a person at one time. It can be male or female. Again, it kind of aligns with witchcraft, but you have to commit a great evil, and then there's a ceremony to turn you into a Skinwalker. And sometimes the great evil is eating someone close to you. Please, God, do not. If you're an impressionable listener, do not go out there and eat someone. We're not saying that'll turn you into a Skinwalker. But that is what the legend says. And there are reports all over the place. I mean, a lot of them are from like around Colorado and other areas, that part of the United States, but there are reports all across the country of Skinwalkers. Some of them are a lot of times, I think the most common that I've heard are where Skinwalkers appear as like coyotes or wolves is probably the most. But the strange thing is a lot of people report there's several similarities in all of these reports. One being that at some point the creature will stand up on its hind legs. One guy said he was camping and went to go take a leak and just saw a deer strolling across the woods on its hind legs. Not like you see deer and dogs, a lot of four-leg, animals that walk on four legs, when they stand up, they look uneasy. Even the dogs that are trained to walk on two legs look wobbly. He said, no, this thing looked like it was on its way to work. Like it just
BoJack Horseman or something.
Right, just walking on two legs. But when it saw him, we have another similarity. A lot of the reports report this ungodly screech before the creature runs off. And I say creature, even though supposedly it was once a human. But once you become a skinwalker, they say supposedly you can never go back. You're always a skinwalker.
So you can't just be like a weekend skinwalker, like, normal life in the week, and then in the weekend you're out in the woods doing weird stuff.
Well, according to some Navajos, think that skinwalkers walk amongst them. So, yeah, maybe you could live a double life.
Oh, geez.
You know what I mean? Maybe you could be a regular person, but then be a skinwalker on your off time. But once you have those abilities, you're never not going to be a skinwalker.
So these things could have infiltrated like government and all that kind of stuff. Is that true?
Well, the thing is, here's the thing. Yes and no. Probably not, because a lot of the reports mention that skinwalkers, what a skinwalker does, it's a shapeshifter. Mm-hmm. And it takes the form of something that or someone, because while a lot of reports talk about it turning into animals, we're animals, so it can turn into humans too. But there's always something off about it. Mm-hmm. One guy reported going out, it was a story I'd read on Reddit, or either had heard someone narrating from Reddit, where he had went outside to smoke a cigarette. He lived with his parents, couldn't smoke in or around the house, went outside to smoke. Saw his neighbor across the field waving at him, but it was real jerky. It looked like he didn't know how to wave. You know what I mean? Like, just instantly he knew that was supposed to be his neighbor, but that something was wrong. And he said that, like, I can't remember if he bent down to put his cigarette what, but when he looked up, his neighbor was like right there, like even closer, and moved lots of distance in a very short amount of time. So he freaks out, goes inside, and his neighbor was outside of his house. Oh, my word. When he asked his neighbor the next day about it, his neighbor said, I wasn't outside last night. I was asleep.
Yeah.
And it seems to be that's a recurring thing in these reports, is that skinwalkers will take the form of someone or something that you trust in order to lure you somewhere where we don't know, because apparently the people that get lured have never been around to tell the tale. And while I keep an open mind while we talk about this too, because while I discuss this, I'm not saying I believe it, because my gosh, I can already hear the keys typing of people telling me why it's stupid to believe in something like this. We're just discussing paranormal topics. I'm not saying they do or do not exist. Well, at least I might say that at some point, whether I believe in it or not. But that's not the point of this podcast, to convince you one way or the other. It's just discussing paranormal phenomenon.
Well, if there's that many accounts and it goes back that far in history,
it's witchcraft. Witchcraft goes as far back as humanity, it seems sometimes, and is in all kinds of cultures. This is in Navajo culture. But what's crazy is people have reported seeing dead people. One group of people had went on a camping trip to honor a dead friend, and while one walked away, probably to pee or whatever, he saw his dead friend, which was a terrible choice for the skinwalker, because why would you pick someone I already knows? I'm not going to where my dead friend is. That's not going to lure me.
I don't know, man.
That's going to make me go the other way. Yeah. But if you do check out, we'll be releasing our first Paranormal Experiences podcast on Friday, which is, we have a guest, Aaron, but he only had like one ghost story, which we didn't know going into that. He only had one. So I kind of filled in the gaps with some of my experiences. I do talk about, and I've got paranormal experiences, but I think most of them are very easily explainable, but I just can't at the current time. So that's why I classify them as paranormal experiences. But the one that I said chilled me the most, I talk about how I was in the woods hunting at the end of the day and was followed by something that was howling. But when you hear the podcast, we recorded this, like 2-3 months ago. So it's been before I even started reading about skinwalkers. I said it almost had it sounded like a wolf howl. I know what a coyote howling sounds like. I've hunted coyotes for a while. This wasn't a coyote howl. And it was weird because it almost had a human element to it. But if you listen to that podcast, which comes out Friday, you'll hear me talk more in depth about that. But it kind of freaking me out going and getting into the whole skinwalker thing, because one common report too is that their sounds always sound off. Like, for instance, people have reported hearing a woman screaming for help, but said it sounded like someone had taken a woman screaming for help, dropped it down a pitch, and slowed it down. Like you hear it, you know what it is, but you instantly register that something's not right. Something's not normal about this voice.
That's crazy, man. So, I mean, they...
Supposedly, locking eyes with a skinwalker will give them the ability to take control of your actions. Like they can get into your body, absorb themselves into your body, and possess you, for lack of better terms.
So you could go back to your campsite and be under the control of the evil skinwalker.
Exactly.
And then who knows what you're going to do.
Of course, no reports from that. But the thing is, too, one thing to keep in mind with this, while it all sounds crazy, keeping an open mind, do you know how many missing persons reports we have in this country yearly that never get solved? And while most were probably murdered or got lost or fell off of something, a very normal, not paranormal explanation for their disappearance is some you have to wonder, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot out there we can't explain, you know?
And like I said, the Navajo don't want to even talk about it because talking about it could attract them to you too.
So you talk them up and they show up. Basically.
That's the rumor, yeah.
So we need to keep the doors locked on this one.
Well, there is one way. Speaking of doors locked, actually, similar to black-eyed children, vampires, and other mythological creatures, or paranormal creatures, they supposedly can't come into your home unless you invite them, which is why they would take the form of someone you know. So just when you look out your window or your door, make sure that because everybody reports there being something off, almost literally like the name Skinwalker, like they're wearing the skin of someone. Like at a distance, hey, that looks like JP.
Right.
But as you get close, you realize something's not right with JP. Like that's not JP. It looks like JP and it sounds a little bit like JP, but something's off. It's almost like a lot of the reports seem like the creature is learning to be human, even though apparently it was once human, but like it's learning how to move like you or the animal, you know.
So I wonder what their ultimate goal is, you know? I mean, what are they really up to out there?
Well, some people say that they want to lure you away to turn you into a skinwalker. They put you in their ceremony and make you a skinwalker. Some people report that they just simply want to kill you. And what's crazy is they kill you. They're very commonly seen around graveyards because it's a part of the legend is that they'll dig up bodies and make a powder from the bodies that they will use to poison you.
Ooh.
But it's never good. You know what I mean? Like a skinwalker is never trying. And there are some similarities to like the Wendigo, which we can do one on the Wendigo if you guys are interested in that. But there are a lot of differences. They are not the same thing. You know, a Wendigo, much like we say with the skinwalker, you have to do a great evil to become a skinwalker. And sometimes some people say that involves eating someone, whereas a Wendigo is usually a result of cannibalism, but they are two different entities. I think Wendigos are more of an up north thing, and Skinwalkers are more down in the south, though reports of both have been all over the place.
Right.
But so you know not to lock eyes with them. And like I said, the most common form people see them in is some kind of dog form, coyote, wolf, dog. But a lot of people, too, report that the three things with the eyes I've noticed that's common in these reports, A, their eyes glow, which if you're shining a light on them and they're an animal, their eyes are going to glow. Mm-hmm. But some people report they have no eyes. It's just hollowed out sockets, almost like it's wearing like the hollowed out skin or whatever of this creature it's trying to imitate, or that they have human eyes. So the human eyes and the no eyes kind of go together. It's like the ones you see with no eyes. It's like they put the skin on, but they haven't quite lined it up yet. You know what I mean? Basically, picture a man or a woman wearing something's skin.
Like in the original Men in Black, the Edgar suit.
Very, very, very true. Yeah, just like that. And but it sounds like if you see the human eyes, they've pulled the suit closer and got it to fit better. But keep in mind, there have also been some reports of people seeing them, and they've been described as being 7 to 8 feet tall. A lot of those reports are that they're unnaturally skinny. They have like elongated limbs. But yeah, so there's some conflicting reports. Like I said, some people will say they look like animals. Some people see them like, I guess, in their natural form. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to necessarily find if they're immortal or not. I was looking that up a while back and couldn't really find a definitive answer on if they're considered immortal or not. But they are supposedly immensely powerful.
We need to find like a sighting in our, somewhat in our area, man, and go try to hunt one down and capture it.
I mean, I've got, like I said, you can go to a graveyard. and maybe you could find one there. But like people say that on a site I saw, DeborahChristie.com, there's 3 words to describe them: powerful, evil, and scary. But they say if you try to strike up a conversation on a reservation, like it will be hard to find any of them that actually want to talk about skinwalkers out in the open.
Jeez.
But yeah, it's the evil deeds, and this is still going again from DeborahChristie.com. It's talking about the evil born from the worst kinds of deeds is what they have to do to become a skinwalker. Evil born from taking a life, the life of a close family member. Wow. So, yeah. So, and like I said, so some things to look out for if you are one of the people that thinks that you've encountered one. A lot of people report human eyes on an animal, like an animal. For instance, one story was that a family German Shepherd was gone, disappeared. So the father and the uncle went into the woods looking for the animal, leaving the guy telling the story and his older brother. They were there alone for a while, and his older brother said, "Stay here." And he went outside, and he looked through the scope, and he said he could see his older brother looking through the scope, and he saw his finger kind of move down to the trigger, and he waited a few seconds, and then he pulled his finger up, and he came back inside. I don't think he told him then, but he later told him that he thought he'd heard their dog. So he went outside, and when he looked through the scope, he saw their dog. But he instantly realized that it was not their dog. It was like something was wearing their dog's skin, that it had human eyes, and that it stood up on 2 legs and ran off.
And he still didn't shoot it, man. Would you have shot it? Would you have took the shot?
It's hard when you don't know what's going on, and that's your pet. You know, like my dog, he drives me crazy sometimes, but I love him to death. And I mean, it's like, yes, that sounds unnatural and not right, but I'd be scared that I'd just shoot him and he just really just did something weird, and I just killed him for no reason. I don't know. It's hard, but apparently, according to DeborahChristie.com, their goal is power and strength. So that is what they're looking for. But I don't know. So look out for the human-like eyes. Like I said, a lot of reports are of animals walking on 2 hind legs very comfortably. And apparently these things can travel, too. Supposedly they can cover about 200 miles in a single evening.
Jeez, man.
Reports have said that they can keep up with vehicles going, very fast. It's like one report was that this group of people saw a group of coyotes, and I might be telling the story a little wrong. I'm kind of just recalling from what I've heard, but that they saw what looked like a pack of coyotes in the middle of the road. So they slowed down and tried to go around them. Well, then one started chasing them, but they said it looked weird. It's like its front arms were long. It looked like a person running on 4 legs, not an actual coyote, but that this thing kept up with their vehicle. And then they thought they lost it, but then later that night they heard talking outside their window, like human voices talking. And there's more to that once they got home that I don't want to tell wrong. But then they talked to a friend who freaked out because they experienced the exact same thing. So, I don't know.
Do they only come out at night?
A lot of the reports are at night, though. I do think I've read some reports that were in the day or the evening. I mean, I don't think they're channeled by the night. I think it's just easier for them to operate in the night.
Yeah, easier to fool you.
But that's I don't know, man. That's some creepy stuff. I would say that the Navajo word for skinwalker is it's Yi Naladushi. I might be saying that so wrong, but it translates to he who walks on all 4s. And it is creepy because I've heard reports of like seeing humanoid creatures crawling on 4 legs, but definitely looking like they weren't made to be on all 4s. But you sound like you want to go hunt one.
Yeah, dude, I wouldn't mind, finding some accounts, talking to some people, and getting out there and getting to the bottom of this thing,
What's crazy is the way you kill them. You have to say their name.
So, like Skinwalker.
No, you have to know their original name. So if you went and turned into a Skinwalker, and I knew you were a Skinwalker, and I encountered you somewhere, if I said your name, if I just said JP, you would end up dying. But I mean, how you would, unless you know it's someone how you would know that. I mean, it pretty much just means you can't kill them then, because they're supposedly really strong, really fast. They can take a lot of damage. So, I mean, it's next to impossible to kill them without knowing their name. But what's interesting is there's so many reports of them, the Skinwalker themselves, just running off.
Yeah, who knows what they're up to, man. Sometimes they probably just messing with you, you know. I don't know. If you were like out in the woods and you had a mortal wound and, you know, it was either die or join the ranks of the Skinwalkers, would you join them? Would you become them? You would lay in the woods.
Well, because in order to become one, apparently you have to commit a great evil, which is usually taking the life of someone close to you. Yeah. And that would be putting their life ahead of mine. I mean, my life ahead of theirs, and I wouldn't do that. So no.
Yeah, but when you're looking death in the face, man, you might would do it.
I know it's easier said than done, but I would like to think that I would rather die than to murder someone that I love. Because we're not just talking about killing a random person. Mm-hmm. I mean, you got to kill someone you're close to. I mean, I imagine that means family or very close friends. And I just would hope I'm not that. I don't know, though. Like you said, you never know until you're in that situation.
Just living forever as an immortal shapeshifter that's doing all these weird things. And
what could they use to lure you out into their
man, probably a firm piece of butt, man, like some Pocahontas looking chick out in the woods, man.
So if you were
taunting me and wiggling her boobs around, and
so if you were out in the woods, you wouldn't find it strange that there was just a half naked girl there that just showed up and wants to have sex?
I would think it was a happy accident, and I would certainly investigate, if nothing else, for scientific purposes.
You have watched too much porn.
I'd figure it out, man, and you know.
Real life does not happen like pornography, JP. If there is a half naked lady in the woods or a naked lady in the woods that wants to have sex with you randomly, odds are one of two things. She's trying to lure you away to, you know, she's a skinwalker or some kind of evil creature, or she's a meth head, which might still be trying to lure you away to kill you and then rob you and buy more meth. But so at no point is it ever really a good idea to have just sex with a strange woman who just appears into the woods.
In the forest. I don't know, man. I think it could be a beautiful thing. I may inhabit the evil lady Skinwalker.
What's interesting is in Utah they have Skinwalker Ranch. And I mean, I'm sure that if you're listening to this, you've probably heard of Skinwalker Ranch. But if you haven't, look it up. It's an interesting place. Lots of paranormal phenomena going on there. They've actually done scientific studies there. It's been so much reported going on there. It's about 512 acres. It's southeast of Ballard, Utah. So, you know, like I said, they've written books on that, done reports. So look up Skinwalker Ranch. But people have reported seeing like large animals with like red eyes that have been struck with bullets and unaffected. They've seen flying objects and orbs. It seems with Skinwalker Ranch, though, there's more reports of UFO activity than it is actual skinwalkers, but not to say that there aren't skinwalker type experiences there.
I mean, who's to say this thing isn't extraterrestrial, you know, kind of like El Chupacabra. A lot of people think that's extraterrestrial. So we really don't know. I mean, it could be, you know,
or it could be like an extra-dimensional.
Interdimensional, yeah. I mean, we don't know, but I'd like to find out. I'd love to get like some kind of Native American expert on, man. How fun would that be?
Oh, yeah. If anybody out there is an expert on this type of stuff, you know, we will always welcome. Tell us where we were wrong, because all I'm telling you is you know, are things that I've heard or read in the past, you know, things that I've researched and found.
Well, we should further investigate this, man. Like I've told you a million times, I grew up on the X-Files. I'd love to get to the bottom of it, to talk to some people with real experiences and maybe even capture one. Maybe seduce one our own selves. I don't know
that you're going to capture one. They're very powerful, and I don't think that they would get captured very easily.
I've got a really big net, like a throw net for fish, man. It's got these heavy weights on it.
Do you have any bolas? You know, throw it around their feet. Wraps up their feet. I ain't got none. They've got mystical powers, though, man. They can probably just disappear if they want to. But so to wrap it up, let's wrap up and kind of overview of what a skinwalker is. So a skinwalker is something that was once human. It comes from Navajo folklore. It was once human. It then participated in a ritual, which gave it the ability to shapeshift. It likes to kill people, from what I can tell, for fun. I don't know that it necessarily eats you or anything. That freaked me out. Like, I looked down at my computer when I heard it, and I was like, conversation over. We've lured them. Done. But they will lure you out. And a lot of reports, like I said, it's not just limited to animals. There's been reports of people seeing dogs with human eyes, but a lot of times they take human shape to lure you away from other people or to lure you somewhere where we don't know what they're going to do to you, kill you, turn you into a skinwalker. But signs to look for are human eyes on an animal or the absence of eyes, walking on two legs when they definitely aren't an animal that typically does that, and always listen to the noises, because apparently the noises, when they try to imitate the voices or animal noises, they always sound a bit off, like distorted. So they sound like similar to what they're trying to imitate, but they can never imitate it perfectly. And reports say if they're a dog, coyote, wolf, or whatever, pay attention. They'll never have a tail.
It's weird, man. Do they ever turn into cats? I told you I had a shape-shifting cat last night up under my house.
You did, but you didn't tell me on the podcast. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, not like I'm up under my house trying to get my cat out from under there. He's been, outside. He's strictly an indoor cat, and he'll hide under the house. And, like, I'm just crawling. It's so tight up under my house, dude. Like, there's some parts I can't even squeeze in. And I see, like, I see him. I got the light. Like, it was clearly my cat Nebo. And he kind of scurries towards the exit, so I kind of shuffle. And by the time, like, I clear the debris and can see the cat again, it's a whole nother cat. It looks just like the cat, another cat we've got inside. But so either there's two cats under there, and they just kind of, like, switch spots or something, or is a shape-shifting cat skinwalker kind of thing. I don't know.
Did it have a tail?
I think it did.
I'm not going to say that definitely means it's not a skinwalker, but a lot of reports of skinwalkers. And apparently, one thing that I had read, written by someone who said, he was, of course, like, I have a friend that's Navajo, but supposedly they don't ever have tails.
Maybe with such a small animal, maybe
probably
you
was
pull
just
off the tail.
Two cats. Most
probably
likely.
two cats.
Probably just two cats.
Nebo doesn't really like other cats, though. It's just made it even that much more weird, or why he'd just be hanging out down there.
But take caution. Supposedly they can take the shape of people that are deceased. Mm-hmm. They can take the shape of people that I've heard stories of where someone, kind of like another story I told earlier, where somebody was camping and they went to go pee, and then they got freaked out because a friend that they knew that they had left back at camp, that there was no way this friend had gotten that far ahead of them, is deeper into the woods, trying to get them, beckoning them to come further into the woods. And then they run back to camp, and that same friend is sitting there chilling, like, no, I haven't been in the woods.
I'm getting freaky, man. I don't know.
So they shape shift into animals, but humans also. But like I said, they say supposedly if you pay attention, you can always tell that something is off. If you want to know more about skinwalkers, you can Google them. They're all over the place. They definitely kind of seem to be getting that Slender Man treatment, and that sense of like they're really coming to light. Like the legend of them has been around for a long time, but they've just recently started coming into, like, I guess you'd say, mainstream focus.
Yeah, I'd like to experience one a little bit more in depth. If any of our listeners are skinwalkers, call in. Shoot us an email. We would love to pick your brain.
Yep, but from a distance. Like, I don't want you in studio.
No in studio. No.
and please heed the advice I gave JP. If there's an attractive person in the woods naked trying to have sex with you, do not be fooled. They are either a drug addict or they are a skinwalker.
Imagine
neither
that,
of which do you want to deal with.
It could turn out to be just like Interview with a Vampire. You could be Christian Slater, a sexy, roguish skinwalker comes in here. Next thing you know, they're sucking on you in the back of your car.
No, I don't want to do that, nor do I want to imagine that.
Yeah. That's a good movie, though.
But yeah, so if you found that interesting, if you like this and you want us to continue to cover different paranormal creatures or phenomenon, let us know. We definitely are open to talk about it. Just let us know in the comments section what you think, what you thought. I mean, this is just kind of a test. If this does a little bit better than our current events podcast, then we'll put this in place of it, because this is actually a lot easier on us in trying to gather current events. So just, number one, I've read about a lot of these things, but
I'm a big fan of the Sasquatch. I love the Sasquatch.
We can definitely do that. And going back before we wrap up, you were talking about, wanting to capture one. They say that they're very commonly encountered near native reservations.
We could go down towards Cherokee, North Carolina. That ain't too far away.
Yeah, we could. And there's a ton of stories you can find online about it. I've heard of one where it chased a truck and like got in the back of the truck. And, this guy said his uncle told him, don't look at it. Do not look down. Don't look at it. Because like I said, apparently looking into their eyes allows them to absorb into you and control your actions. But
what do you do? Have to slam on brakes and send it flying over the front of the truck?
No, he just drove until he threw it off by a sharp turn or something.
Jeez.
But yeah, like some reports say it had a dog's body, but with human hands and feet. I've heard reports of it looking like a deer carcass, not even a straight up deer, like a hollowed out deer carcass. But the thing was, it had like human hands, like almost female looking delicate hands on an otherwise deer carcass looking body. One thing I left out, people do sometimes report a decaying stench, an overwhelming decaying stench that comes along with it. And like I said, a lot of reports will say it's not fully, like I said, that's the main thing to look for with animals is they say it doesn't look fully animal, but it doesn't look fully human either. But yeah, I don't know. So be careful out there, man. There's, I think a lot of this is all just confusion because somebody might, if you're alone in the woods, I mean, I've hunted coyotes, through most of my life. But if I was to be alone in the woods and turn around and there was a coyote standing there, it's going to startle me.
I believe it could have to do with the genetic experimentation. A lot of people think that Sodom and Gomorrah were actually destroyed because they were, experimenting with combining animals with humans and things of this nature.
I've not heard of that.
So, yeah, we'll have to talk about that as well.
But I mean, you could the glowing eyes thing to me is a little different because it's like, well, if it's nighttime and you hit it with a light or there is a light reflecting off of its eyes, that's how animals see in the dark. Human eyes shouldn't do that. So if you see a human with glowing eyes in light, get the hell out of there. But, if you see an animal and its eyes reflect, I mean, depending on the animal, you still probably need to get the hell out of there. But odds are it's probably not a skinwalker. And I feel like when you go through trauma or something startles you, your imagination, sometimes memories aren't the most reliable. You think back to it and it has glowing orange eyes and it was, huge and yada yada, kind of like fisherman stories. But then, in reality, it was probably like a lone coyote or a stray dog. The light hit its eyes, they glue, and of course you freaked out because you weren't expecting to see it and you ran off and your mind made it something more than it was. But with that said, still, this is a strange rock that we live on. And I believe we've yet to skim the surface of all the things that are on it. So be careful when you're out there.
Yeah, be careful. Stay hydrated. One last revelation I want to leave you with. I think I've figured out just over the course of thinking about all this and what you were just saying about the hollowed out deer carcass. Obviously, that's what happened with Tom Green's career. He mocked the Skinwalkers and Freddie got fingered. Next thing you know, they're manipulating Hollywood and Drew Barrymore leaves him.
Maybe.
There's no other explanation now.
But let us know what you thought of the paranormal thing. We can definitely continue along this. We actually had recorded one earlier that I felt was pretty good, but it was more like I was reading too much instead of just saying what it was.
It was less conversational.
Right.
Kind of like with the, we got a little flack with the Jeffrey Epstein thing. Again, I was kind of reading more so than, conversating about it. So.
Right. So we decided to go with this one. But let us know your thoughts. If you know some things that we didn't cover here when it comes to Skinwalkers, man, let us know in the comments section. And if there's enough, maybe we'll do a redo and we'll go back and revisit it. But
sure.
As for next week, I don't know what we would do. Maybe we do Sasquatch or the Wendigo or...
We'll figure it out.
We'll do something if you guys enjoy this enough. But also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. If nothing else, give us a like. It helps out a ton. We do all kinds of podcasts, and not all of them are paranormal and out there. Some of them are very normal. We used to actually just have a random rambling where we sat around and talked about any and everything, but that just kind of turned into conspiracy talk, so we just made it into a conspiracy cast. But... we do podcasts about lots of different stuff, and we on Thursdays we actually answer your questions. So we're very interactive, and we hope you enjoyed it. We hope you do not encounter any skinwalkers out there.
But if you do, let us know
and try to capture it.
Yes.
Throw a net on it or something.
Yeah.
Maybe see if you can do some reverse psychology and lure it to us.
Yeah, that would work too.
But seriously, if you see a skinwalker, get the hell out of there. We'll catch you tomorrow because JP has some evidence to suggest that Donald Trump is a time traveler.
Yeah, he possesses time travel technology. There's no doubt in my mind about it.
I'm trying to say that with as straight a face as I can.
No.
And please, with the love of God, if there's one thing I can leave you with, keep an open mind. When we talk about these things, they are discussions. We're not sitting here telling you to believe this. We're just talking about things. So remember that.
Well.
And without further ado, I guess that's going to wrap it up for us. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat. It's I'm Justin Lloyd, all lowercases with 2 L's in Lloyd, no apostrophes. JP, give them your social media info.
J_Radsaw on Instagram and Snapchat. And yeah, I guess that's it.
Yeah, and don't forget to like us on Facebook. We're also on Twitter at Podcast Dead. We will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, we will.
I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.
Cowabunga.